Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the next class of YouTube revision of performance management with me, Janki Panchal, your faculty for the subject. Now, if you remember what we did yesterday, we did a quick understanding of what strategies should be used to give the performance management paper in terms of time management, in terms of logical reasoning, in terms of approaching the paper, in terms of strategy that we are going to use, right? As I said yesterday, I am going to do one question each for each of the three important topics that I have taught yesterday, right? So let's take a quick revision of what topics we did. In my yesterday's YouTube revision, we have done transfer pricing, divisional performance, and planning and operational variance, right? What was transfer pricing? Transfer pricing is the price of the goods and services that are sold or purchased internally in an organization, right? If you remember yesterday's class, I've given you an example of division A and division B and how do they, sell products to each other at what price, market based, cost based, right? And the next one was divisional performance, which was also interrelated because that is where individual divisional managers or departments need to get their share of return for whatever is controllable in their hands, right? So that is when we spoke about the controllable profits and the controllable losses and the uncontrollable profit and losses. And in the same guideline, on the same network of understandings, we also did one more topic, which was called planning and operational variance, where we did understand that all the variances that happen in an organization should not be obligated to the department heads. Operational variances are something which are related or which can be a reason of inefficiency in a department. But when it comes to planning variance, there is nothing that is controllable from the department side, and hence they should not be responsible for it, right? So these are the three topics that we did. Definitely, if you have missed yesterday's class, I would strongly recommend to see it and get an in-depth understanding of the theory, because all these three topics that we have been discussing yesterday have got a good amount of weightage in terms of theory also. So if you intend to only focus on the calculative parts for especially these three questions or three topics that have been explained yesterday, that is going to be a big loss for you. Okay, and that's why I picked up these three topics for your YouTube revision for the December 2023 examination, so that we are coming off the comfort zone, because I have seen so many students just overdoing it on the variances, overdoing it on different types of costing methods, but they end up missing out on these important topics which do add value, in fact, to your knowledge of performance management also. Plus, from the exam point of view, theory questions are expected from these. Right, so theory and practical, both of them can be expected out of this. And on that note, let's start with the first topic that I discussed yesterday. Before I start, I told you one more thing yesterday, that look out for distractors. Okay. Obviously, when I'm reading the question, I'm going to go pretty slow in reading it, making sure that you are understanding it before you are actually attempting it, right? But in your examination, as you would not have so much of your liberty time, you need to make sure that from day one, you start practicing reading the question, understanding the question, and looking for what is required, right? Obviously, I'm going to do it with the questions here, but this needs to be a perpetual kind of practice that comes out from you all when you are practicing your questions. Okay, so distractors, comfortable things, certain keywords that you need to understand, right? Let's start with this question. I think it's pretty visible. Yeah, nice and clear. So this is a question that I've picked up from the ACCA Study Hub, predominantly to make sure that you understand that there is a lot of importance that is given to ACCA Study Hub. If you remember, yesterday I have told you that there are a lot of questions to practice on the Study Hub. So please do that. Please make yourself well equipped, well prepared for the examination from the study material given. These questions that I'm going to discuss today are picked up from the ACCS Study Hub, so we get the importance and the kind of novelty that is available on the platform. Also, the question that is picked up for tomorrow's 100 marker is one of the papers that is from the CBE platform, which is powered by ACCA. Okay, so you know where the sources are. Definitely these documents would be uploaded on the YouTube, but you should know where the source is coming from. So even if you want to practice it yourself, you could do it with convenience, right? On that note, first question based on transfer pricing, which is called Abel and Baker. I'm just going to squeeze this little so I can technically write next to it. Right. The question says a transfer pricing system operated by a divisional company has potential to make a significant contribution towards the achievement of corporate financial objectives. What does it say? You need to find out some things which are based on transfer pricing, right? In your exam, you would not be segregated separately and asked for transfer pricing, right? So you need to look for your keywords that will make you understand what kind of question it is. From the look of it, if you see the first lines, let me just mark it out for you, just 1 minute. From the look of the question, you need to figure out what the question is asking you, right? Transfer pricing. So just a second now. Let me just move the just a 1 minute. Well, I was just trying to shift it. Yeah. So let me just see if you can see it properly. Well, it's little small for you. 1 minute. I think this is better. Right? So look at the thing that it says, transfer pricing, right? 5 marks. State the potential benefits of operating transfer pricing. In general, if you look at this question, you do understand that it is a direct question, right? A small piece of information with a requirement. It is a direct theory questions. You don't need to look for anything. You just need to give the benefits of transfer pricing within a divisionalized company, right? Simple 5 marks, easily achievable, right? 5 marks, maybe 5 good points, should do the job here. So what does divisional transfer pricing help into? Achieving global corporate profit optimally. I'll explain you how. If division A requires raw material that is worth $10 and it gets from an external supplier, okay? Division B makes the same product, right? who has a cost of $6 but is ready to sell outside at $12 and to division A at $10, right? So if division A has an opportunity to buy a raw material for $10 from the external supplier and also at $10 from division B, then it should go for purchasing it from division B only, because then the company's overall profit is intact and increased, right? Division B is letting go of $2 of its profit, which can be in lieu of marketing, advertisement, promotions, packaging, delivery, whatever I explained you yesterday, right? And giving it at $10 to Division A. Division A should buy it, right? And this is with a disclaimer that there is no other condition applied. So, when divisions internally transfer goods or services, all over the company has got profits, right? I mean, if you see the situation, division A could have purchased it from an external source or in-house for the same price, right? So, might as well purchase it from in-house to make sure that the company is increasing, progressing, growing, whatever. And division B, who is a part of the company, is also having its profit shares, right? Goal congruence between divisions and groups. Companies' overall goals are focused on one thing. If, for example, Division A ends up purchasing something from the external supplier, to Division A, the costing might not differentiate, right? It's the same. But for Division B, it might be that they would feel that they are not being valued in the organization, right? So, goal congruence, fostering divisional autonomy and local decision making, right? When individual divisions feel motivated, individual divisions have got their share of accolades. That is where they are having their own autonomy, right? They can make their decisions and make interrelated transactions. The measurement of divisional financial performance via the generations of recognized income figure. Because here, overall, the company's divisional performance is increased, improved, right? Because two divisions are helping each other, right? And the provision of pricing signals that induce decision to improve corporate profitability, right? So overall, corporate profitability. Now, see, in your exam, you might not be able to give your answers so beautiful, right? You might not be able to use the terms that are given here. And honestly, all my students, I end up saying that you don't have to replicate the model answers. You don't have to copy the model answers. That is not the intention. The intention here is to make sure that you are writing the right answer. Okay, there is a difference between imitation and being right. Now, the same question, when it says potential benefits of transfer pricing, you can talk of goal congruence, because definitely that is something which should come in students' mind. You can talk about the divisional profitability, right? You can talk about the overall growth, right? Maybe you may not be able to think more further than that, right? What you can do is you can explain them properly, give examples, give examples, right? And improve your answer, right? I'm just showing you, I'm not telling you, please don't misunderstand that I'm telling you that you should not use this study material. I am 100% telling you to use the study materials, but I am just giving you a plan B. What if? you are not able to write answers as good as this. Because when there is pressure in the examination, you might fumble, right? So stick to what you know. Yesterday, I explained you transfer pricing, right? So I give you a lot of information on it. Use that information, write your theory accordingly. You don't need to replicate answers. As far as you are in the correct line of answering, that should be enough. Okay, next question. Looks like a calculative to me. Let's read it. A company operates two divisions, Able and Baker. Okay, Able manufactures two products, X and Y. So this is Able, this is Baker. Okay, Able makes two products, X and Y. Product X is sold to external customer for 42, externally for $42. The only outlet for product Y is Baker. So Y is selling all its goods to Baker. Baker supplies an external market and can obtain its semi-finished supplies from either Able or an external source. So Baker can purchase from Y or externally also. Okay. Baker currently has the opportunity to purchase product Y from an external supplier at 38. So if he's buying from externally, he can buy it for 38. The capacity of division Able, now here again, is measured in the units of output, irrespective of whether product X or Y or a combination of both are being manufactured. That means the capacity is limited, and it does not actually restrict of which product to make, product X or product Y. That means Able does not have unlimited capacity that it can make, right? This is what it is trying to show. The capacity of division Able is measured in the units of output, is irrespective of whether X, Y, or a combination is being manufactured. The associate product cost are as follows, which are given here, where the variable cost is 32 and 35 and fixed overheads are 5 and 5. What do we need to do here? Using the above info, provide advice on the determination of an appropriate transfer price for the sale of product Y from the division Able to division Baker under the following conditions. When? So we need to find out the transfer price from Able to Baker when Able has spare capacity and limited external demand for X. That's simple, right? What do we do? Now, as I said, capacity is limited, right? Now, what does that mean? That means that if Able can make 100 units, right? It can make 100 of X or 100 of Y or a combination of both, right? But there is a set limit of the output that Able can give. The first option gives you is when division Able has spare capacity and limited external demand for X. That means Y has got a spare capacity. Overall, 100 units are not being sold of X. That means Y can also be produced, right? When a company has got spare capacity, there is no opportunity cost that comes into picture. That's why your variable cost is equal to your transfer price, right? So if Y is being produced at 35, it can give Y, I can write it here maybe, Y can give, Able can give Y, well, too much. Able can give Y to Baker at a transfer price of $35, right? Now, if you notice here, and I did mention in the pointers that I was writing also, that Baker can externally purchase a similar product like Y for $38. Obviously, if Able is able to give Y at 35, Baker should purchase it from Able. So when division Able has spare capacity and limited external demand for product X, that means you need to provide, Able can provide Baker, and Baker will purchase from Able at a price of $35, right? But if you look at the answer, $35 is something. So normally what students do, they stick to 35 and they give this as the final answer. But 35 normally is something which is only variable cost. Now, when we only take variable cost, that means when we only take variable cost, that means Abel's division that produces Y might be unhappy, right? Why? Why would Abel's division that produces Y be unhappy? Because they're not having any profits. They're not getting any profits, right? So, goal congruence, profitability, those terms would put up here. And for that, you need to keep this answer into a full circle saying that any price that both divisions mutually decide more than $35 and less than $38 is favorable, right? Anything which is more than 35, less than 38 is favorable, right? Always stick to the theory that I have explained. Always stick to the theory that I have explained. Yesterday, if you remember, I did tell you that if the organization is giving from one division to another division a product on cost to cost, the division that is giving would be not happy because they would not be motivated, right? That is why if you want to complete this answer and get your complete 3 marks, that is what you need to write, right? You just reflect to what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to make you come out of the myth that if you have done the calculation correctly, you will get your marks expected. You need to justify it, right? And that is why I've written anything which is more than 35, less than 38 is favorable for division able and division baker, right? Clear? Let's go to the next one. Let me just read this out for you so you get happy with that. So if the company has got spare capacity, the division able, when division able has spare capacity, the incremental cost of the company of producing Y is $35, as mentioned. The cost of the external supplier is $38. Therefore, it is cheaper for the company if the division able supplies Y. The transfer price should be fixed at a price above 35 to provide an incentive for able to supply and generate contribution towards the recovery of fixed cost and below 38 to encourage a baker to buy. The price should be set so that both divisions acting independently in their own interest chose to trade at the set price. Right? Whenever you're writing an answer, give it a full understanding. Next question, 4 marker. Here. When division able is operating at full capacity with unsatisfied external demand for product X. Again, the same logic which comes here, which is super important to understand, that able has got a limited amount of products that it can produce, right? A limited amount of product that it can produce. It can be X, it can be Y, it can be both. Now, in that situation, what will happen when division X, when able is able to operate at full capacity with unsatisfied external demand for product X, what will happen is if able needs to give any products to Y, if able needs to give product Y to Baker, then what will happen is it needs to let go of selling those products that it is selling of product X, right? If I can totally make 100 products, okay, and I have got a complete demand of a product that I can sell outside. Here, the question arises that should I make the other product or only stick to the one that is being sold outside, right? So, if I'm selling X and still there is unfulfilled demand, that means there's a full capacity that is being used. And if I end up shutting down the production of X to make Y, that means I am getting a opportunity cost that I need to set off from bakers. Let me explain this to you. Able, suppose can make 100 units, okay? And it is a mix of X and Y, correct? Now, if Able has got full capacity means all its units will be sold of X externally at $42, right? What should be the price that is given to Baker, right? Now here, because it is full capacity, it's going to be marginal cost plus the opportunity cost, right? Opportunity cost here is going to be 32 minus 42. So 42 minus 32, which is $10. So whatever is the marginal cost plus the $10 definitely needs to be spent, right? So the situation now requires for the opportunity cost of diverting resources away from the supplier of external customers. For every additional unit of Y produced and supplied to Baker, Able has to sacrifice indirectly $10 because if it would have sold to external suppliers, then it would have got that $10, right? Because it is selling at 42, making it at 32. And we are only calculating the marginal cost right now, variable cost right now. So the relevant cost of making a unit of Y in these circumstances is 35, right? Because that is what the marginal cost is, right? Hence, if you are selling it, if Y is sold to Baker, then it will be at the marginal cost of 35 plus the $10 opportunity cost. So making it to $45. This represents the real cost of supplying division Baker with one unit of product Y. It is therefore better for the company to purchase Y from external supplier because obviously the external supplier is selling you for $38. This can be ensured by fixing a transfer price of Y above 38 to discourage Baker from buying it from Able at a price of 40 maybe. And Baker would not choose to buy from Able and it would not be the interest of Able to sell the other division also. Now, in this situation, it is very, very obvious that organization is going to have a problem intertransacting, right? Majorly because if able, which is a division, right? If it is selling only one of its product, which is product X, to external sellers, right? External buyers, then definitely it is going to get a opportunity cost or a profit of $10, right? And if Baker obliges itself to purchase it from Able, first thing is product X that Able could sell outside would be unfulfilled, right? Which is not good from the customer's point of view. You don't want your customers to be not buying products from you. They can always switch over, right? So that is a disadvantage. Second thing is, baker is going to get it cheaper from the external supplier, because if it is purchasing from Able, it needs to pay for the opportunity cost, like the cost that the cost of letting go of not selling product X, right? So in this situation, when there is full capacity, Able should sell its product outside at $42, and baker should purchase the raw material at $38, right? Yesterday, I explained you the theory part of it. Today, I'm doing the calculator so you get it properly into your head. As I said, it has got more of theory into it, right? So in examination, don't expect that you just need to calculate transfer pricing and get away with it. You need to give the logical reasoning of why you are using that solution, right? Super clear. Next question is theory two. The design of an information system for decision making and transfer pricing necessitates the inclusion of specific data. Identify the data that needs to be collected and how it may be used. Right? 6 marks. Theory. It is asking what data is required to calculate the transfer price. Right? Now we have done a question based on transfer price, so it shouldn't be a problem for us to find that out. You need your variable cost. You need your selling price. You need your current and maximum capacity that you can produce. The limiting factor, as we had an example in Able, the value of the shadow price, because you can buy it from external at 38, you can buy internal at 42. I just explained you, right? And the availability of prices of obtaining from the suppliers. See, this is a 6 marks question, right? Again, I'm not expecting you to be as good and write everything as a pointer format. You can write it in para format, right? Explain the situation. But since this is a generic question, don't try to relate it with Abel and Baker situation. Okay, you can say that the necessary data that is required to calculate the transfer pricing is the variable cost, right? Because variable cost will give you the marginal cost. VC is equal to MC. You can also talk about the sales price because that will give you the value that products are sold externally, right? You can talk about the capacity of production. I mean, there is a lot of reference that you can pick up from the A, from the B part of the answer and put it up here, but try not to relate it with the Abel and Baker situation. Because, I mean, try not to use the terms Abel and Baker situation, because if you notice, they have asked you for a generic answer, so stick to the generic points only. Right? You don't need to write in paragraph pointer formats. You can write in paragraphs and elaborate your answer. Okay? Right. That is how we take a transfer pricing question. If you see this question is 18 marks, right? As I said, transfer pricing is something which mostly comes in your section C. You can expect something between 5 to 10 to 15 marks, right? You might have some calculatives, some theories, and the explanations, and joining all the informations together. This is what I'm expecting if you get a transfer pricing question in your examination, right? Superb. There are other questions on the study hub also. I would strongly recommend that you go through them. This question is based on divisional performance evaluation, right? And even this question is being picked up from your ACCA study hub. Let's go through it. Ideally, as I said, one question, 1.5 minutes. So if you are doing the above question, mm, that is 1.5, about 27 minutes should be there to solve the question, right? But you will only improvise if you start practicing. Even yesterday, I told you that start your practice from the day you watch the video, hopefully from the 6th of November. But if you're not started yesterday, start it from today. Do it from today. Start preparing for your paper. Performance management will require a lot of practice. So you should give that to them. Second question, divisional performance evaluation. Let's read the question, try to understand it. Pace Company runs a large number of wholesale stores and is increasing the number of these stores all the time. It measures the performance of each store on the basis of a target run return on investment of 15%. So there is this company called PC and it has got a chain of stores. Target ROI at 15%. Store manager gets a bonus of 10% on salary if this target is met. If met, then 10% bonus on the salary, right? Once a store is built, there is a very little further capital expenditure until 4 years have passed, right? So the investment, the capital investment is initially high, but is almost negligible in the rest of the 4 years, right? Obviously, in the exam, you don't have the liberty to write like I am doing. Of course, you cannot. But when you try to understand the question word by word, it surely helps you to write the answer properly. There are distractors in the earlier question also. If you notice, the question was so haphazard, right? If you read it once, you might have to read it again, right? Since and I'm 100% sure of it. If you are practicing before exam, you will by default look at the keywords that are required. But if you miss on that and you try to just look at the questions and look at the answers and try to relate to them, you would not be able to clear this paper, right? So you got to practice the questions yourself. Obviously, in the exam, you cannot write pointers like this, but when you are practicing the question, make your own pointers on one side and just accumulate all the information on one side, right? You might take a little longer for the initial times, and slowly, you will improvise on it. Okay, so this got to be done. Coming back, PCE has a store W in the west of the country. Store W has historic financial data as followed for the past 4 years. So there are 4 years in which the data has been given, which is sales, which is deteriorating by the end, gross profit definitely with it, net profit margin reduced, net sales at net assets at the start of the year, which is also deteriorating. The market in which PC operates has grown steadily. Typically, PC's store generates 40% gross profit. It says that this part of the scenario relates to requirement B. So I'm not going to go for that right now. I'm going to see what A requires and deal with A first. Okay. 8 marker question, right? It's a 8 marker question. Discuss the financial performance of store W using ROI and any other measures you feel appropriate. And using your findings, discuss whether ROI correctly reflects store W's actual performance. I'll repeat this again. Discuss. That means theory. Financial performance. That means calculation. Store W using ROI and other measures you feel appropriate using your findings. Discuss whether ROI correctly reflects store's actual performance. That means this question, if you notice, is being distributed into three parts. There are three expectations out of this question. One, you need to discuss the financial performance. To discuss the financial performance, you always have to calculate the financial performance and also talk about ROI and its reflection on the organization. Right? So, this is what we have to do: one part, two part, and three part. Right? Let's go and see this question now. The first thing that it has done is it has found out the return on investment. Now, if you all have forgotten what is the return on investment formula, I'll just give it to you here. ROI, profit upon net assets, right? In this question, if you notice, there is no controllable or non-controllable profit. In that situation, you need to pick up whatever profit is available and assume that it is controllable, right? There is no other information that has been given here. So it is technically very difficult for us to figure out what is controllable and what is not, right? After all, we are only looking at these informations. We can't go to the next one because that is completely for the requirement B. Right, so the first thing is we need to figure out the ROI because it is evidently being asked here. So I'm just going to say 13 divided by 100 and 14 divided by 80, 10 divided by 60, and so forth. Right, so yeah, 8 divided by 40. Right, so let's find out the values. They've already figured out here, which is 13%, 17.5%, 16.7%, and 20%, right? Now the bonus is paid if the ROI is 15%. Are you meeting the target here? No. Meeting here? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. So apart from the first year, every other year the company is meeting the targets, right? The other thing that they have seen now, because we need to do the financial performance, we can't just do ROI and leave it, right? So we need to find out other things also. Let's see what the next question is, or what we can find out. We can find out the year-on-year growth. We can find out the GPM, right? These are the two things that we can find. And it says PC store generates a 40% GPM typically, right? So let's see if company is making up for that also. Sales growth is year on year. This is year on year. So if you notice, the first year it was 200, second year 200, then it reduced to 180 and then 170, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 180 and 170. Right? I'm sure you know how to find those percentages out. So year on year, if you want to do, it's 200, right? There is no difference every year. So we can just take it like that. After that, there is the reduction is 180. So what we can do is we can see the difference. So in 2019, it was 200. In the next year, it has become 180. Difference is 20. So 20 on 200 gives you a 10%, right? And the year after, it is 180 minus 170, that is 10, which will be divided by 180. So 10 divided by 180 gives you a reduction, right? So this is how you find out your growth, which is technically not there, right? And then after you have found out the gross profit margin is gross profit upon sales, which is 80 upon 200, 70 upon 200, 63 upon 180, 51 upon 170. So that is how you find out your GPM, these values. Typically, the company says that its GPM is 40%, but it has not met that criteria except in 2018. Overheads cost. Overheads cost is something which you can't actually see, but if you deduct from your gross profit your net profit, so 80 minus 13, 70 minus 14, 63 minus 10, and 51 minus 8, you will be finding out your overheads margin, right? And net profit on sales, your net profit divided by your sales. Here now the question arises of how to answer this, right? As I said, you need to calculate your financial performance. You need to discuss the financial performance, right? So these are certain things that are required from this question. Now, in your exam, it is not necessary that you might be able to, or, sometimes actually there's a question that I get that what ratios to find out? How would I know which ratio should I find out? Right? And the answer to that is very simple. Find what you see. Find what you see. Just look at this question. Just look at these numbers and the datas, right? What you can find out. There is an expectation of 15%, right? That means definitely your ROI is coming here, right? Your general ratios that you can find out the gross profit margin, the net profit margin, the year on year. Can you find out these things? Right? Simple. And even if you cannot find out the overheads, you might not strike, oh, well, I should do the overheads or well, I should not do the overheads. It is fine, right? As far as you're finding four ratios. See, after all, this is a 8 marks question, right? Even if we say 2 marks for this, 3 marks for the discussion, right? And 2 marks for ROI explanation. As I said, don't replicate answers, right? That does not mean that make your own answers which are haphazard and which are wrong, but it only means that make your answers which do make sense, right? ROI, GPM, NPM, year on year. This is something which you can find out from the data here, right? You don't need assistance for them. These are ratios. Return on investment, you can find out net profit upon net assets. You can find out GPM. You have got the gross profit and the sales. You can find the net profit margin, NPM, net profit upon sales. And you can find out the year on year growth. All these things can be visible from the data that is given, just the four information that has been given. Find out what you can. This answer has got certain things which you don't know, which you might not strike on. Bonus paid, overheads. It's okay. It's fine. Okay. You can always talk about them when you're doing your discussion, right? Because here there is a bonus that is given directly for your store managers on the return on investment of 15%, right? So talk about that, isn't it? Let's go to the answer. Now, obviously, since we have found everything, we can find out the year on year. Sales growth, revenue growth is unimpressive because if you see year on year, company is not making any profits. In fact, growth is not there at all. The market in which PC operates is steadily growing, and yet W has shrunk the terms of sales over the last 4 years. This could be poor prices achieved given the reduction in GPM, a falling sales rise, because company normally says that typically that GPM is 40%, but that is something that they have only achieved once, right, in the initial year. After that, it has reduced, and reduced, right? So sales growth, not there. Gross profit margin, not up to the company's standards. They have been deteriorating. And sometimes you can give a reason of why that is deteriorating. There can be a reason that the cost is too high, the cost of sales may be high, right? That can lead to this kind of gross profit deterioration. Overheads control, well, if you have not found out the overheads, definitely you would not have that you would be speaking about it. But that is fine as far as you can talk about the net profit. The net profits, if you see, are increasing, right? Net profits is something which is increasing and then decreasing and decreasing, right? So there can be a situation where 1 year the company had a reduction or have achieved the economies of scales, right? And then talk about it, right? After all, it is 3 marks that is being given to it, right? Even if you're talking about the sales growth and gross profit and net profit margin, and talking about something which is relevant, just like a two pointer, your job is done. 6 marks, let it be worth 6 marks only, right? And then your 2 marks come here for the ROI. The ROI has improved in most years and exceeded 15% target in all but 1 year, which is 2018. This is simply due to the reducing assets base on the store's assets have gradually been depreciated. Net profit levels have fallen overall, and yet ROI has increased. It is hard to argue that ROI figures properly reflect the performance of the store, and ROI will tend to increase as assets get older and will distort the financial performance of the picture. This is what the author's or answer has been written. I would say ROI is not efficiently found out because of lack of information. No controllable values shown. This would be my first reaction to the ROI because I can't find my controllable profits, right? What else? Then I can talk about the assets deterioration. And it's obvious, when the assets go down, automatically the net assets will reduce and the profit will be seen as higher. But that is nothing to do with the actual profit. Profit is just because the net assets are going down because of the depreciation. The profit might seem higher and the ROI might seem favorable, right? So we can talk about this. It's a two-marker question. Tell about the inefficiency that is available and then speak about the assets deterioration, right? Let's go to the next part of this question. PC has another store S about to open in the south of the country for which the following information is provided. Sales in the first year will be 18,000 units. Sales volume will grow at 10% for years 2 and 3, but no further growth is expected in year 4. That means first year the sale is 18,000, then 10% growth in the second and the third year. Fourth year remains to be stagnant. Sales price will start with 12 for the first 2 years, but then reduce by 5%. So first 2 years, the sales price is going to be 12 and 12, and then going to reduce by 5% for each year of the next 2 years. Gross profit will start at 40% but will reduce as the sales price reduces also. All purchase price on goods for resale will remain constant for the 4 years. Overheads, including depreciation, is 70,000 for the first 2 years, rising to 80,000 in the third and fourth year. This can be because of the depreciation that will keep on increasing when the company progresses. Store requires an initial investment of 100,000 at the start of its first year of trading. PC depreciates non-current assets at 25% on the cost, and no residual value is expected of these assets. Wonderful. What are we supposed to do here? Calculate the revenue, done. Gross profit, can do. Net profit, can do. And ROI over the first 4 years. Ah, good question, right? Something that we are comfortable with. Revenue. How do you find revenue? We have the number of units that I is seeing a growth. We have the sales price that is seeing a deterioration. Use it and write your answer, right? Sales for the first year is 18,000, then a 10% growth. So 18,000 into 1.1, right? Which is 19,800. And that value remains constant for the next 2 years, right? So after 19,800, again, there is one more jump, which makes it 21,780. But this 21,780 remains constant for the third and the fourth year. Your sales price, first year $12, second year $12, third year there is a reduction, so 95, right? So that becomes 11.40. Again, there is a reduction, 11.40 into 0.95. That is going to reduce to 10.83, right? Let me take you to the question once again. Sales volume will go 10% for the first 2 years. Sorry, sales for the first year is 18,000. Sales volume will grow at 10% for the year 2 and 3 and is expected to be no further growth in 4. That's why if you see, we did in second year a growth, third year a growth on the second year, and then after a constant. When it comes to the price, for the first 2 years, it remains constant at $12. After that, reduced at 5% per annum for each of the next 2 years. And that is why that is deteriorating year on year. Look at the question carefully. Again, repeating it, right? I have read it before. I know I'm comfortable with it. But when you see a question, when you lay your eyes on the question for the first time, it is tricky, right? You might make a mistake. So always, even in class, even in my live classes, my offline classes, I do keep telling students, and they do make mistakes. They 100% do make mistakes. Despite of me sitting on their head, despite of me monitoring them on the online classes, they end up making mistakes saying, oh, well, we didn't end up seeing this. So that's why I'm saying you make sure you are reading the question. If it is a two marker, give 30 seconds. But if this is a big question like this, give 2 minutes to read it, right? And try to understand the question. Otherwise, what you would end up doing, I'll tell you, common mistake that you will take first two lines, 18,000 year on year, 10%, you will keep on exponentially increasing it by 10%. Or $12 after the second year, you will keep on reducing, right? So reading this para is super important for you to get all the rest of the answers correctly. This para. Right? Otherwise, revenue will be wrong. Because the revenue is wrong, the other things related, gross profit and net profit and ROI, everything will be wrong. Right? Going back to my question again, answer again. I have found out these values, right? And that's why you will just put those values directly in your first one. Question is saying that the gross profit is 40% of the gross profit margin is 40%. Now we don't have the cost of sales here, right? But we do have the gross profit margin. So with the gross profit margin, we can just find out the gross profit because it is 40% of the sales. So what did we do? 216, which is here, we have taken the 40% of that. Again, 40% of that, right? And then after, because there is a deterioration in the price, the selling price, the same thing will be seen in the sales also, right? So that is going to be 35 by 95, right? And obviously that is going to be deteriorated again because again a 5% reduction. So that is going to be 30.25 upon 90.25, right? What are we doing here? We are trying to reduce the gross profit with the relation of the sales price because the sales price has reduced from 12 to 11.40 in year 3, right? And in year 4 it has gone down to 10.83, right? So we just find out the same value which is on this side, right? Correct. Now we have our percentage, the new percentages. We will use it over here and we will find our values, right? Which is the price of the gross profit. Now, these values will directly come up here, right? Overheads, if you notice, that is also given in the question 70,000 in the first year. Overheads, including depreciation, will be 70,000 for the first 2 years and 80,000 for the third and the fourth year. Same values we'll be putting up here. 70, 70, 80, 80. You find out the net profit, which is gross profit minus overheads. So this minus this minus this minus this, and this minus this, right? You'll get your net profits. Your investment is also given in the question if you read. 1 lakh is the initial investment, and you have a depreciation of 25% on the cost with no residual values, right? So the same thing you can figure out here. Every year, the investment is deteriorating by 25%, 25%, 25%, right? Return on investment, you got your profit, you got your investments, and you find out your return on investments, right? You're supposed to find out revenue, done, gross profit, done, net profit, done, ROI, done for the first 4 years. So you've got your values. Completely calculative question worth how much? 8 marks. That means at an average 2 marks to calculate each one of them. Easy peasy marks. You can easily get it, right? Next question. Calculate the minimum sales volume required in year 4 to earn the manager of S a bonus in that year. Now, if we see year 4 has not made any profit, right? Year 2, the company has got ROI, which is going to give the manager a bonus because it is above 15%. So goes for year 3 and year 4, but the last year, if you notice, they don't end up making any profits. So how do we go about this? In order for a bonus that is paid for 15%, the net profit, it implies that there is a net profit of 15% that is on your net profit that is given in terms of investment, right? So basically, ROI is net profit upon investment. Again, here we don't have a controllable value, right? We know that we need to achieve this. We know that our investments are 25,000. We need to find out what net profit is required, right? So that is what we have done here. We just done a cross multiplication and we find out that this is what the net profit is required. Now the question is to find out the sales volume, right? So we're just going backwards, right? We need to add the overheads of 80,000. So that brings 83750. Then the gross profit of 33.518. I'll also show that to you here, right? So your gross profit that now to be added up to the cost that we have so far, right? So this at 33,500 gets you a sale of 249,866, right? Because you have your gross profit, you have your net profit, and you need to find out your sales values, right? Then you have the price that you have in year four, right? So what you do is you simply divide 249,866 with 10.83 and you will get your number of units, right? Basically, what you're doing here is you're working backwards, right? You were just going backwards in terms of your answer, right? So you're finding out everything from the ROI itself because ROI is what is desired to be 15%. And then you work backwards and find out the units, right? A good easy marks that you can achieve here for $4, right? So when there is a calculation without theory, well, it's going to be pretty straightforward, right? But when there is a theory, make sure that you are justifying the calculation and the theory with the appropriate values. Let's do the last question after a 5 minutes break. Operating and planning and operational variances. Okay. Hello, I'm back. Let's start with the third topic and the last topic, planning and operational variances. Let's read the question first. Bedco. Bedco manufactures children's bed sheets and pillowcases. It supplies to a major furnishing retailer. It uses a just-in-time system and holds no inventory. The standard cost for the cloth which is being used to make the bed sheets and pillowcases is $5 per square meter. Each bedsheet uses 2 square meter of cotton and each pillowcase uses zero point 0.5 square meter. Production level for bed sheets and pillowcases for November were as follows. So the budgeted production was 1,20,000 and 1,90,000 of bedsheet and pillowcases each. The actual production was 1,20,000 and 180 of bedsheets and pillowcases each. The actual cost of the cotton in November was 5.80 per square meter dollars. They expected it to be $5. It is 5.80. The usage is 248,000 square meter of cotton was used to make the bed sheets and 95,000 square meter was used to make pillowcases. The world commodity prices for cotton increased by 20% in November. At the beginning of the month, the furnishing retailers had an unexpected request of an immediate design change at the pillowcases. The new design required 10% more cotton than previously. It also resulted in production delays and therefore a shortfall in the production of 10,000 pillowcases in the total that month because they had less raw materials. The production manager at Bedco is responsible for all buying and any production issue which occurs, although he is not responsible for setting the standard cost. What are we required to do here? We are going to calculate the following variance for the month of November for both bed sheets and pillowcases in total. So we need to find out the price planning variance, the price operational variance, usage planning variance, and usage operational variance, and all in terms of materials. So it's 3 marks awarded to each one of them. Right now, when we see the price is definitely increased from 5 to 5.8, right? Let's see how the answer shapes up. And it also looks at the planning variance, right? So there is a 20% increase, which is here, right? So $5, 5.80, which is the actuals, and the commodity price, which is increased by 20%. Price variance formula, standard price minus revised price into actual quantity. Actual quantity is also given in the question, right? So standard price was 5, revised price is 20% higher. That means $5 and 20%. So makes it $6, right? Actual quantity of 2,48,000, which is going to give them an adverse of 2,48,000. Similarly, for pillowcase also, since the price has increased from what was expected, it is going to be 95,000 adverse. So there is a total planning adverse variance, material price planning adverse variance of 3,43,000 adverse dollars. When it comes to price, revised minus actual is going to give you the operational as the formula shown you yesterday, right? So 6 is the revised price and we have purchased it at 5.80. Definitely, these values are favorable in terms of actual quantity and for sheets, bed sheets, and pillowcases. The next one is the usage variance, right? Formula standard quantity of actual output minus revised quantity of actual production. Now, the revised quantity is 10% extra because they have changed the pillowcases designs, right? So that is 0.55, right? Actual and revised of the actual production remains same, and I'll show you how. Because if you notice here, Bed sheets doesn't have a lot of change at all, right? So it's going to be same used at 2, right? So the number of units that they are going to make is 120, which is actual and budgeted same. And the amount of usage of raw material is 5. So that is not changed, right? Coming to the next one, which is pillowcases. Now, the thing with the pillowcase is it's standard quantity for actual production minus the revised quantity for actual production. So, how much was the standard quantity that was required for the actual production is just going to calculate it for you, right? So, that becomes 90, right? Because company made how much? Company made 1 lakh 80 pillowcases. One pillowcase takes 1.5, so that is about 90,000. And then a 5% increase, right? How much is the actual production? 1 lakh 80, right? And how much the company intended to use? So it was 1 lakh 80 into 5 square meters. This was the original plan. But because of the 10% increase in the price, it becomes 0.55 meters square. So this was what was the plan. This is what happened, and that's why there is a adverse, because this is going to be the standard price which was originally taken, adverse of 45,000. Operational material usage operational variance. Actual quantity, revised quantity for actual production, right? Into the value, you get your adverse. Actual quantity that should have been taken is going to be 1 lakh 90 into zero point 0.5, right? So let me just calculate that, right? 1 lakh 90 into zero point 0.5. Just show it to you in a minute. Here it is. And the value is also given here. So you don't have to calculate predominantly, right? So you can eliminate this and directly put the values, right? Right? Actual quantity used given in the question, and this is what you find out, right? Which was 1 lakh 80 into 5 point, sorry, into 0.55. That gives you a favorable, and that's why the total is 40 adverse, 20 favorable, 20 adverse. Easy, easy, easy 12 marks. You get it like this, right? All you need to do is you need to know your formulas pretty well of planning and operational variances. Next one, assess the performance of production manager for the month of November in the respect of variances calculated. Now we know that any variance which is operational is controllable. Let me just take this out. It's too much. Operational is controllable. Planning, not controllable, right? So this is controllable, but that is planning is not controllable. Now let's see what the planning variance is. It is 3,43,000, not controllable. Favorable, controllable. Adverse planning, not controllable. But Adverse variance, definitely controllable. Right? So let's see what the answer says. In total, there has been an overspread of 3,39,400. And how they have found out, they have taken all the adverses and favorables and clubbed them together to figure out this total value, which is definitely adverse. And definitely that is why it is saying it looks poor. However, when the reason for this are examined together with the variance calculated, it's apparent that the production manager cannot be held responsible for all the situations. Now, there was an increase in the cotton price by 20%, which was from the external factors, right? Which has increased the planning variances magnificently, right? Nothing in the hand of the manager. Since cotton is used to make bed sheets and the price of this rose in the world market by 20% from $5 to $6, the production manager's performance has to be looked at it in the light of this. Because of the increased market price, the adverse material planning variance is high, right? Since the budgeted cost of the material was $5, but which has been actually now $6 because of the 20% of increase. The production manager cannot be held responsible for this because this is not the set standard price. He can also only be responsible for any difference in price between $6 and the 5.80. Since 5.80 is something which is less than the market price, the manager performed well. And there was an operating variance which was favorable for 68,600. When it comes to the amount of cotton that is used, since more cotton was used than the actual production then budgeted, the total average material usage variance was 65,000. However, of this, 45,000 arose because of the request of change in the design, which is the 10% increase of the pillowcases. This was not within the control of the production manager either. And his performance should not therefore be assessed on it. However, an adverse material usage operational variance of $20,000 also rose the performance of the production manager in a weak year. Most of the adverse operational variance actually related to the production of bed sheets rather than pillowcases. It is not clear why this arose, but is definitely poor. Bedco was unable to produce all the pillowcases ordered by its customers in November, which had fallen short by 10,000 units. If this was genuinely because of the late design change, however, it seems unfair to judge the production manager on this. Right? So there are two things that have been put up here, which has got a control from the manager and has not got a control from the manager. When there is an increase in price or change in the design, the manager should not be responsible for it, right? And anything that is having a reflection in that on the variances should not be responsible either, right? But when there is an overusage, despite of the revisions, then definitely it will be something where the managers are responsible. So as I earlier mentioned, operational variance in price or usage, managers are responsible, but planning variance in terms of price or usage, managers are not responsible. And that is what is mentioned here also. The finesse is definitely nice, but the idea remains the same. It's a good 8 marker question, right? So you need to write it correctly. You need to make sure that you justify all the figures that you have calculated in part A of yours, right? Talk about the importance of the planning variance and operational variance. How are they relatable or can be something on which the managers can be assessed, right? And then make your story accordingly. There are two incidences here, which is an increase in the price of the cotton and the change of the design. Those things also should be mentioned here. So if it is a good 8 marker question, we need to make sure that we justify all the marks that we are asking for, right? By talking about planning and operational, by talking about the price rise of cotton, by talking about the change in the pillowcase, by talking about what was favorable, right? Which was one thing, which was the price variance, right? So, on that note, we end up today's class of understanding three very important topics which are definitely coming in your exams. In the upcoming years, right? And definitely, I feel that now you have got a clearer understanding of how to approach these questions. I have specifically, again, telling you, I've specifically picked up these things because it has got a mix of theory and calculation, just to break through the myth that performance management is not always calculation. And when there is theory and calculation, you've got to justify each of these elements properly with the right amount of time and marks associated, right? So, on that note, I end up today's class. Thank you so much for watching me. Thank you so much for listening to whatever is the topics that I felt was important in performance management. As I said, I'm sure this should add value to you. If you have not watched yesterday's video, you should watch it. Definitely, it's going to help you with the strategy and understanding the theory part of the questions discussed here today. Tomorrow is the last day of the YouTube revision for performance management by me, Janki Panchal, powered by IIC Lakshya. And please join in at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Okay. Our classes are also in Hindi for the YouTube revisions. So if you are interested, if your friends are interested, or anyone that you know wants to join in the class, you can definitely subscribe to the channel and join to the class. Okay. So thank you so much. And I'm going to see you tomorrow. Bye bye.